Okay. So I was explaining you how to go ahead with the R Studio Cloud. First, I explain you about the R language. So you can search in the R language in the Google. You can install that one, download and install. Then R Studio software also you can download and install from the R Studio website. But if you don't want to install anything, then you can search R Studio Cloud, and you can click on this particular link. It will take you that particular page, and you need to log in with one particular ID, right? You might be having any Gmail account, so you can log in with this one. Let's say I log in with this one. So once you log in, you will get this kind of structure, right? For you, you might be not getting any assignments, or because you might have not done any particular project, right? So you will be getting a clear page. So if we see here, what I'll suggest, all of you go along with me. Okay, do one thing: search our Studio Cloud, all of you. If you're having the laptop in front of you, right? If you don't have, then please write down the step, or later on after seeing the videos, you can do that. So you can search this R Studio Cloud. You can click on that, and just try to log in on that R Studio. You click on this. For me, I have already logged in, so it will show me this particular page. Now after this, what you can do, it will give you one workspace to you, right? We can click on this new project, and it will create the project for us. So all of you, please do this particular process. Search in the Google R Studio Cloud, click on this particular link, and it will take you to the cloud page. Please log in with any of your Gmail account, and then it will open this particular page, and you can click over there on the new project, and then it will create a new project. It will take initially some time, right? And this particular window will get open. So all of you do along with me. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. Just see whether you got, I mean, you went to this particular page or not. You got this page, all of you?
Yeah, just give us time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So if you have
Yeah,
any
we
issue, you
should
can
click
ask me.
on get started for free, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
Yeah, there are two
R Studio
options.
Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, our Studio Cloud get started for free. Already a user, so we should click on get
No,
started for free.
click on login. Click on
Login.
login.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
done.
and then log in with your Gmail account.
Okay,
Okay, and then if this particular page is coming, you can click on new project.
okay, okay.
So we wouldn't need to download our cloud, the R.
Nothing. No. I mean, see, this particular ID will get open, and it's exactly similar to my this particular ID which I have installed. Okay, I'll show you that one. So you don't have to download anything, but I would recommend you to download and install on your machine and practice on your particular machine, because see what happens. It has a certain limitation that our Studio Cloud has the limitation. Let's say it will allow you to create up to 15 project, and after that it will not allow you, and it will ask you for a certain amount. Okay, so that's not free. And certain work hours is also no given a free. For example, let's say you cannot work more than in 1 month, you cannot work more than 15-20 hours, I think. So that some limitation is there. That's the only issue. Otherwise you don't have any problem. You can create anytime. If you have multiple ID also, you can log in with those IDs, right? And you can work with this particular studio. So anywhere you will go, if you have the online connection, internet connection, you can access this particular cloud. This is the advantage. So all of you on this particular page, whether you got this page after clicking on the new
Yes,
project.
sir.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now if you see, now currently we can see only three windows. One is this one, second is this particular window, and the third one this one, right? So what you can do, in the corner over here, there is a window icon is there. You just click on that. One click, just click once, so you will get one more window, right? And I'm adjusting little bit So my entire thing is looking like this. 4 quadrants are there. This one is the first one, second one, this third, and the fourth. Okay, 4 quadrants I'm having. So let me describe this thing no to you. And now just see here the similarities. Now this is my software. I'm clicking on my software. Okay, how I can go to software? I can search over here in the start. I can say R Studio, and then this particular icon will appear. I can just click on that after installation. Okay, after installation I can click on this, it will open, and I have already opened it. So if you see here, it's exactly similar to, let me start a new. Yeah, so it exactly looks similar to my RStudio Cloud. Okay, there is no difference at all. So that's why I used to tell you that you don't have to install anything in the first session. I'll tell you, right? So we won't be wasting any time. Now these 4 quadrants are there. In the first quadrant, this is called as your script window, where we can write the code. This is called as your script window. The second quadrant, the second window, which is over here, this is called as the environment window or the history window. Okay, so mostly here all the, for example, any variable you will be creating, you'll be storing temporary data, right? All those variables will be created over here. You can see those things. Once we'll start with the coding and all, I'll demonstrate you, and you can see the anytime we new thing is created, that will be added over here, and it will also maintain you the history and all, right? So this is our second window. The third window, where we can see our file, this is called as files and plot window. So if you see here, the 2 tabs are there, files and plot. Even the packages are there from which we can install different packages, right? This R language is fully loaded with the different packages. Whenever you require any functionality, you should be just aware of in which package you will get that particular functionality. You can just install that package and your job is done, right? Most of the work will become more easy if you install that particular package. So lots of packages are there, and every day no new packages keep on coming. So this is the files and plot window. Here you can see your folder. Like from here you can set the working directory. Okay, we can access your current folder, and whatever contents you will be doing, you can install, you can put in one particular folder, and then you can access it. So how to set the current working directory and how to access that, I will explain. And then over here, if you see, this is our last window. This is also called as the command window. So here also we can write certain thing and we can execute from the command. So this is a script window, this is an environment window, this is files and plot window, and this is your console window or terminal, or this is also called as the command window, right? If you see over here, different options are available. Like in the file, you can see different options like save as and all you will be getting. But remember, if you are working on the cloud, right? So that is not on our local machine. Okay, if we are accessing remotely, the cloud is somewhere else, right? So if you want to store anything on the cloud, so we have to upload, right? There is a upload option. If you see in the fourth quadrant here, upload option is there, right? So we can upload any file from this particular upload option, and it will go to our this by default project folder. Okay, so only one directory is given to us, that is inside cloud. There is one project folder. Inside this, whatever stuff, if we want, we can create a folder, we can upload the files, right? But whatever local files, if we want to store on the cloud, we have to upload it. And similarly, if you want to have any particular file from the cloud, then you will have to download from that particular cloud, right? You cannot directly access from the your local machine. So only that thing is there. We'll come to this particular part after our the initial theory part, right? And then we will start with the coding. So till now, any doubt in this particular stuff? This is what the software which we'll be using for our entire workshop. So how to go ahead with the installation? I've told you that for installation, I've given the link, right? So first you have to go to this particular video, installation of R. So you will have to download the R language software. It's very easy. You can just simply search R language, and you can go to this particular R project. From there, you will have to download and install The description is given over there. You just need to download the software and will have to install. One thing you need to see, that is your operating system, whether it's a 64-bit or 32-bit, right? That you think, please notice, and according to that you can download the that particular software. Then after installing this R language software, you can go ahead with the installation of R Studio. Okay, so R Studio, after you install, then your software is done. And the third video which is there, that is if you don't want to install anything, this is regarding the our R Studio Cloud.
So I've installed the R language. Where does that show up? I've installed R Studio as well.
So you can search over here, right? Or if you want to see the icon will look like this R Studio.
This I've got. What about the R language?
R language icon is like this. So this kind of icon you will get R language on the desktop. If it's there on the desktop, you will get this kind of R language symbol. If you start that one, you will get this kind of command. Okay, command window only. People are still joining, I think. Okay. So any doubt till here? I mean, I'm sure you will be getting, if any doubt after the session, you can go ahead with the installation process. And if you'll be getting any doubt, right, you can post your queries in the group. Many people are there, right, and all of you must be trying, and anybody can answer over there, right? I also, whenever I'll see the message, I'll reply over there. And one Google Classroom I'll be creating. In fact, I have created, but I'll be adding all of you in that particular group after the session. Okay, so I'll require all of your mail, and then I can add with your mail to that Google Classroom, and whatever contents and everything are there, that I'll be keep posting in that particular group only, in that classroom. Okay, so let's go ahead with the theory part. Yeah. So let's understand first about the data science concept, and what is the data science and why we require this, why there is so much hues and cry about this data science. And today we will try to understand the concept of like machine learning, deep learning, AI, data science, data engineer, data analyst. So all these concepts will be clear to you, and make sure that everything is clear to you, and you should use the proper terms at proper places, right? Because many times people are not aware of where they are using the deep learning, where they are using the machine learning, where they are using the word data analyst, data engineer, data scientist, right? So moreover, they use interchangeably here and there, and which is not proper. Okay, now to illustrate this data science concept, I have taken one simple example, very simple example. Suppose we have any particular shop, right? Or let's say we have any mall, and to that particular shop, many customers keep on coming, right, for purchasing the goods and all. So we have to analyze them. Okay? We have to analyze them. And why we want to do such kind of thing? Because we are facing some issue regarding our sales. We are not getting the profit which we are expecting to get. We want to increase our sales so that we can get good number of profit. So this is a problem we are facing. Normally, whenever a company will face any kind of such kind of problem, they normally approach to the data scientists to basically give certain kind of solution to their problem. And then data scientist will take that kind of problem, and then it will try to acquire the data from the company or the various processes, and then it will try to do it their analysis. So this is the problem, right? For example, we have any shop or mall, and we want to increase the sales, and which will in turn will going to increase the profitability. Now what we should do? So suppose this kind of customers which daily keeps on coming to our mall or shop, right? And we have to analyze them. So what we will do initially, if so many people are there who regularly comes to our shop, then we can if we can try to group them, right? Let's say suppose initially I want to group them only in two groups. I just want to divide into two groups, right? One is based on the satisfaction, Okay, one based on the satisfaction. For example, if you see here, these people seems to be satisfied. For example, many people will visit your shop, right? If you give them proper service and all, they will be satisfied by your services. So from my side, I will have certain kind of analysis, right? As a owner or as a staff over there, they can analyze that few people are there who are really satisfied, and a few people are there who are loyal. They will definitely will come to our mall or shop, and they will going to buy certain things, right? They regularly visit our shop or mall. So few people must be loyal, few people are satisfied. Initially, for what I will do, I will try to make two groups from that entire population. Let's say I'm considering 1000 sample of customer. So from 1000 I'm dividing into two groups. One is your satisfied customer, the second is loyal customer. So one is satisfied and second is based on the loyalty, based on our trust. So two groups I'm having, say based on the satisfaction, this one particular group, and based on the loyalty, second group. Now after this, what? Now what we can do, how to serve these customers in a better way. First, we have divided into the groups. That will be easier for us also, so that we can create certain kind of strategies, right? Because definitely a certain group of people will require different kind of strategies, right? The same strategies will not be applicable to the other group of people. So that one task which we have done, that is we have divided into the two groups, and now different strategies can be applied to this particular group, and some other set of strategies will be applied to this particular group, so that best of this can be done. Now our main task is what, how we can serve them, this customer, in a more better way. Suppose I had the data initially and I try to plot, okay, and I try to plot with only two axes. That is, one is the satisfaction and another with the loyalty. Okay, so I had that 1000 sample. I try to plot, how to plot and all that will be seeing, right? Don't worry about that. I'm simply just showing right now. So let's say I'm making only two axes. One is the satisfaction and second one is the loyalty, right? Now what I'm observing, that after plotting this, this kind of plot is called a scatter plot. Okay, this kind of plot is called a scatter plot most of the time. Many times whenever we have the data, we first try to plot the scatter plot, and then we try to observe the data. Now if you see this plotting which I've done, it clearly indicates few, one cluster or work group of people over here, and some people over here. So we can make two cluster, like one is over here, one at this particular place. Now if you see the samples which are there at this particular place, if you see, the loyalty will increase from down to up, right, in this way, in the y direction, and the satisfaction is increasing towards the right, okay, towards the right. So obviously the samples which are over here, it will have the low loyalty because it's downside, and towards the left side over here, right, because right side will be more satisfied customer, and upper side will be more loyal. So these people are what, loyalty which is very less, and they are very less satisfied. Okay, but we can talk about these customers who are highly satisfied, and the loyalty is also very high. So these two groups are clearly visible on this particular plot, right, which I try to plot between satisfaction and loyalty. Now what? So the set of sample which is over here, right? Set of sample which is over here, we can't do with them anything, right? Because they are very less loyal, and loyalty is very less, and they are not satisfied also. So rather than concentrating on this, we can concentrate on this particular part, right, to increase our sales. So we can deploy certain kind of strategies for this particular people, so that we can make out a max from them. So initially we will focus on these customer. What we will do, we have the two clusters, right, as I mentioned. So these, the first one is the low loyalty and low satisfied, and second cluster is over here, which is what, high satisfied and highly loyalty. Now one thing what we can observe, if even if we'll try to go in much deep to this particular cluster, with the group which was over here with the highly satisfied and highly loyal, here also I am observing that these samples we can divide into three parts. So the first part is this one, which I have colored in the green color. The second is in the yellow color, and one more in the blue color. So I'm just talking about that cluster. Okay, we are not we are not talking about this cluster. We can simply eliminate them because they are very less loyal and less satisfied people. So we can just simply alienate them. We are just focusing on the second group, because from here we can turn most of the people, and we can turn them to buy more products, so that they will increase our sales. So I saw that there are three different groups of people are involved in this. First one, so this I have marked as the alienated, right? Because less loyal and less satisfied. Over here, we are having the three groups we are observing. One is the supporters group, let's say. I have marked them as the supporters, fans, and roamers. So now let's try to study about them. What do you mean by supporters, roamers, and fans? Okay, so let's first try to understand for this the fans. Fans are why the name is given as fans, because they are simply the fans of your shop. And anytime you have the product, right, they will most of the time they will come to your shop, and every time they buy one or the two product from your shop, right, they are really the fan of your shop. Supporters are there, right? Supporters also frequently visit to your shop, and many times they will try to support you. I mean, they will try, sometimes they will definitely try to buy from there. Roamers are a kind of visitors who will very rarely they will going to buy. Okay, they just come to roam in your shop because they like to roam here and there, and they might be having proper wi-fi and proper seating arrangement and all, right, which may be fascinating one, right, and they feel they roamers are getting attracted over there, right. So roamers are who, I mean, they will visit your shop regularly, but they will not going to buy. They will just roam here and there, and they will leave your shop, right? But supporters will definitely will sometimes they will buy and they will support you. Fans, they will definitely will going to buy you, and we are alienating this particular part. Okay, now what we can do? So now the data is more clear. We have these three groups where we can focus. We don't have to worry about the fans, right? But supporters are roamers. If certain by applying certain strategies by certain ways, if we are try to convert these supporters to fans, even some of the roamers to fans, right? Definitely they will going to buy our product, and if they will going to buy the product, they will going to increase our sales, which in turn will going to increase our profitability, right. So some sort of strategy we can deploy, so that we can convert the supporters from this particular group to fans, and the roamers from this particular group to fans. Let's see what we can do. So we our aim is what, to convert the supporters to fans. Now, as a even though you are not data scientist now right now, but you can think, what different strategy we can deploy, right. So I'll just give you a few problems which normally we face in the mall or shop, right. And you also might have observed, according to our domain knowledge, right, according to talk with the owner and all of the staff over there, or even by taking the feedback and all, many things we come to know that what different problems might be there of that particular mall. So let's say I've just given few problems, like whenever we buy certain things and whenever we want to pay the bill, right, there is a long queue. Okay, if the long queue is there, right, for example, if we see how he is standing over there, right, if we see the next example, see how he's seeing. I mean, he just seeing that when this queue will get over, right, and it is possible that he will not going to wait over here, right. After one or two customer, he will then definitely will leave from here. He will just keep the product, he will leave from there, right. So many people are like that, right. They try to buy, but they, after seeing the long queues are over there, then definitely they will leave that particular plan. They will drop that plan. So what we can do, maybe we can have more number of queues, right. If we are having only one queue, then definitely it will create the problem. Or when there is a rush time, right, during that you can start the 2 3 queues, right, which will going to distribute the customer, and which will I mean, the queues will not take so much time. So as a analyst, I mean, you have to analyze over there, right, what can be done according to infrastructure over there, so that this part can be eliminated. This is one example. Then the next could be like uh, some behavior of the staff is not proper, right. They are not polite over there, and they will if the staff is misbehaving with you, then definitely, even if there is a rain of gold, they will not go to that particular shop to buy anything, right? So first, politeness is very important, and the behavior is very important. Maybe this is a one issue. Many customer will go over there, and after the first experience they will not come, and they will in turn they will do the mouth publicity to others also. And like this, many people will not try to come. Even if they will come, they will just roam here and there, they will leave from that particular shop. So this might be one more reason, right? Because of that, they are not highly, I mean, they don't feel, they are not like a fan. Then the third, one more reason which we can find out, that is maybe the cost of the product which are there, right? It's very high if we compare with the other shops or malls. So if that thing is there, then definitely nobody will buy, right? Because if the costs are very high, that thing is there. So we have to keep the reasonable prices by checking what is the current prices are going on everywhere, right? Like in accordance with that, we have to keep the prices. We cannot keep any particular price, right? So that one more thing is there. One more example I can give you, like if there are very less number of products are there, right? Varieties are very less, then that could be also one of the reasons, right? People will say that we don't have so much variety to see over there, and don't go over there, right? In that particular mall or shop, we don't see much varieties. So these are the some kind of problems which may be there. As a owner or as a staff over there, you might be knowing many problems you might have listed already, and data scientist will will ask you, right? Will have the conversation with you, and definitely he will also experience, he will try to gather the information via different resources, and then only the lots of problems can be sorted out, right? If you don't know the problem, then there is no question of solution at all. So I just gave you the few examples which we can try to remove, right? And the supporters which were there, like the supporters which were facing this problem, they were the supporters, they were trying to buy certain time, but because of these long queues and all, right, many times they don't like to buy. So if we try to remove these flaws which are over there, right, so many of the supporters will definitely, many times they will going to buy. So few of the supporters will definitely will get converted from the supporters group to the fans group, right? Then we can see the roamers over there, and what we can do with the roamers so that they get converted to the fans. So first of all, one thing is clear, that roamers, they come to our mall or shop regularly, they like to visit, right? So we can deploy certain strategies which will going to attract them. So like we can give this kind of sales offer, right? Super sale, big billion sale, big billion days sale, or that kind of offer we can give, 50%, 20%, and we can give the raffle tickets and all, loyalty cards we can give, right? Buy 9 get 1 free, this kind of strategy we can deploy. So definitely few roamers will be attracted to this kind of offers, and they will try to buy. So these are the some of the strategies which I am telling, right, as an example to clear this particular concept, what different stages may be faced by the data scientist. So these are the strategies which we can deploy, and we can convert some of the roamers to the fans. Okay. So if you see here, if we will going to do all these tasks, then definitely in turn what will happen, so this basically we will create the report. As a data scientist, we will create the report, and this particular report we will submit, we will give to the stakeholder, right? And we will tell them that you can deploy this kind of strategies, and which will going to increase your sales. And the further part can be like uh, we can have the prediction also. If you do this particular thing, then what can be the projection of your sales, your revenue growth and all that is the further part. But this is a problem for the solution for the problem which they are facing currently. So this is the job of your data scientist. So as a data science, how it is clearly defined, data science is a field that uses processes, scientific methodologies, algorithms, and systems to gain knowledge and insights across structured and unstructured data. insights across structured and unstructured data. Now, let me clear you what do you mean by structured and unstructured data. So, whenever structured data means, remember that there will be images and videos data will be there. Okay, that is a unstructured data. If you're talking about structured data, then structured data is a proper data, like names will be there, roll numbers will be there, IDs will be there, these kind of which are there in the form of data types which are mentioned in the languages, that are the most in the structure format. But the data which are there in the form of these videos and audios, they are called as what? Unstructured data. So data science is what? Data science is a field that uses processes, scientific methodologies. Okay, lots of processes will be there, scientific methodologies, of course, lots of algorithm it will going to use, and the systems to gain the knowledge and insights, which is very important, right? Which what is hidden inside the data. Data scientists will always talk about the numbers. Okay, they see the numbers and then they come to know what is the things behind that particular number. So insights across the structured and unstructured data. So the ability to take the data, to be able to handle it, process it, to extract value from it, to visualize it, to communicate it, it's all data scientist job. Okay, so basically data scientists, they communicate with the data, right? Data start communicating with them. So this is what we want to achieve, right? Whenever we see the data, we should be able to we should be able to communicate with that particular data. Okay. Till here, let me give a pause of 1 minute, and I'll ask you whether whatever I've explained till here, it's clear to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then let's move ahead.
So, hi Om,
Yeah.
will you be sharing this presentation or notes and
Yes, yes, definitely. Not even a single thing I'll keep with me. Okay. Whatever I'll be teaching you, everything I'll be sharing with you. Okay. And even if those videos which I have shown you, if you see, if you'll go over there, the workshop videos are already available, right? Whichever workshop I conducted, the same content will be there. You can see over there. But right now, don't try to see those ahead videos, because otherwise, you will not be much interested in this particular live course. So first do the course, and then you can utilize those videos, and even the live course. These particular videos also I'll be uploading, right? So there's a videos you can see later on, and whatever contents I'll be showing, definitely each and everything I'll be uploading on the that Google Classroom, as well as I can also share on the WhatsApp. So don't worry about this thing. Plus, this is already recorded, right? So it's already recorded, and in the videos also you will get this thing. Okay. Yeah.
okay.
Next, so a data scientist are a group of data analysts who engraves all the required technical skills to solve the complex issues, right? So many issues are there. Like one issue we know now only we saw, the company was facing the sales problem, right, and the revenue growth problem, so which wanted to increase the profitability, and data scientists try to solve that particular issue. So not just stop over here, even find the problems that may arise in the future and answer those, right? In the future also some problem may arise. For example, let me give you, let's say suppose any stock is there. I'm sure all of you might be aware of the stock market, right? If any particular share is there, and for some reason its prices are not increasing, right? So if a data scientist want to analyze the entire data, there might be certain issue with the company, right? Or the management is not much active, or the amount, the cash which they are having in hand, that they are not using in a proper way, the investment which might be, they might be not doing in a proper way, right? So lots of uncertainties might be there, and which will no, not going to increase the share price. So even in the future, what may happen, the data scientists will be able to tell. For example, suppose we are doing certain things now, and what will be the result of that particular thing in the future ahead, that also the data scientist will be able to tell you by using certain algorithms. Okay. A data scientist has to maintain a balance between all the stuff in a company, which is why the data scientists earn a very high payment. Okay, they really no draw a very high payment. A decade ago, the data scientists were not in the radar, but at a sudden, the popularity of the data scientist has increased, and it changed the way how the businesses are feeling about data scientists and big data. See, uh, the the main motto of this particular course is to put you on this data scientist path, but there is no force at all, right? I'm not forcing you at all to go in this particular no, in this particular field only, right? It's absolutely your wish, but definitely there will be next 15-20 years will be devoted to the data science, AI, machine learning field, right? So people who are not acquiring this knowledge, then definitely they will not have that particular edge. So if you want to be with the current market, definitely you should learn all these technologies. Okay. So later I will be seeing whether these technologies will definitely will hamper the jobs of the people, right? That also we will going to see. So in a world where 7.7 billion people live and contribute to the creation of 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day, 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. So let's try to understand what this means. The number of zeros for the million is 6 and the number of zeros for the quintillion is 18. So if you see, the quintillion number will look like this, okay, where the number of zeros is 18. So this much huge data is being generated every day, right? And it's normally, I mean, it's impossible for a human being to process this kind of data, right? We require the tools, we require the software, online softwares or the tools which will going to process regularly. They must process the data and to find out certain things from the data. So collection of limited data scientists. Still, there is a limited data scientists, data engineers, and business analysts is not enough to harness the true potential of this much huge amount of data, big data. So this subsequently means the opportunities are wide. All aspirants need to do this process knowledge of the emerging data science trends in the industry, right? So there is a huge requirement for this particular post, right? And because lots of data is being generated and there is a scarcity of data analyst, business analyst, right? So there is a huge scope is there. Okay. So I'm sure you might have understood the concept of this data scientist, data science, and there's a huge requirement, and there is also the boom in this particular field. Now let me explain you now the differences between different fields which are mentioned. For example, in this slide, if you see, AI is there, then AI is your artificial intelligence, then ML is there, that is a machine learning, DL stand for deep learning, and then there is a data science. So what exactly the differences between them, right? So let's first try to understand. So when I say artificial intelligence, right, what is allows you to do? Artificial intelligence, the main focus is to turn the machine to behave like a human being, right? Machine should be able to think the way we think, the way we learn. Machine should be able to learn, right? This is the main goal of any AI, no AI domain, right? So if you are doing any AI project, this will be the main goal: how we can turn the machine to just think like the human being, just behave like a human being, learn like a human being, right? So without the human intervention, the machine will take the decisions. This is the main task of any AI application. So if I describe with the help of Venn diagram, this is a big Venn diagram, right? A circle, right? Which I can say this is whenever I say if I want to design any AI application, this will be the my AI application, and my main motto will be what machine should think like human being. It must behave like a human being. All the decisions should be taken by itself only, right? So we normally hear the terms of AI application or AI engineers. What they normally do, they try to develop this kind of project. Now, when they try to develop this kind of project, whether this is developed it's by alone, no, there is, I mean, nothing that AI is there any technology and you can directly implement the entire thing in this AI. You have to develop the things based on the technology which are available in the AI, right? So let's see, there is one more term that is called as the machine learning. So machine learning is nothing but the subset of AI, right? So if you see over here, I've drawn inside the AI diagram, right? So this is a subset of AI. Now what machine learning will give you in the AI? So remember, our main goal is to develop the AI project or AI application where machine will be able to think like a human being. It will behave like a human being, right? All the decisions by taken by the machine only. So that is our main motto. Now inside this we have this ML. Now what ML will going to provide us? This ML is your machine learning. It will give you a lot of statistical tools to explore and analyze the data, right? A lot of statistical tools to explore and analyze the data. Along with that, it it can give certain kind of it can train the machine. It can give the learning mechanism, and where we can give the training to the machine. We can teach them. Then the machine will be able to learn. Then we can also test based on our data whether it's reacting in a proper way or not. So normally there are the three different ways based on which the machine can be trained. The first one is the supervised learning, second one is the unsupervised learning, and third is the reinforcement learning. So let me take you to the notepad and then I can explain. So the first one is like this. Yeah, I'm explaining about machine learning. So it provides us three way of learning, like supervised learning, then unsupervised learning, and then the last one is reinforcement learning. Now first try to understand what do you mean by learning itself. What do you mean by learning? So when we say the person has learned, right? Whenever there is a permanent change in the behavior, whenever there is a permanent change in the behavior, remember this one, change in the behavior. For example, suppose I am teaching someone to solve one problem, let's say 2 plus 6, right? So first time the person has not able to solve and he has given the answer, let's say 7. I have taught them that you solve this particular problem in this way, and this is not the correct answer. The answer is what? 8, right? And like this I have given multiple problems to that particular person, and the person now he's able to solve this. After 1 or 2 days again I will ask if he is able to solve. Again after 1 month I'll ask if he is able to solve. That means what I'll see, that there is a permanent change in his behavior. Now he is able to solve. So one example I have given, that is solving of the problem. But let's say suppose I am teaching someone to drive the vehicle, right? If there is a change in the permanent behavior, then we can say that the person has done. So in our normal term, when we say that the person has learned, it should not be a temporary change. It should be what? A permanent change. Then only we can say that the learning has taken place. So there is a first one type is what? A supervised learning. Okay, so in the supervised learning, what happens? The learning take place in the presence of supervisor. Okay, in the presence of supervisor, remember this, in the presence of supervisor. So for example, suppose we have the data, right? We will give to model. This will be some model, right? Let's say ML model, and then we will get the output, right? So once we'll get the output, we will try to find out whether this output is a desired one or not. Okay, the desired one or not. If it is not desired one, then we'll try to find out the error. If we try to find out the error, what is the error, and after calculating this error, we can again feed back over here. So the finding on this particular error, right? Who will do this? Will be done by the supervisor, right? And then unless until this desired output will come, the some kind of changes will take place, right? And then it will again feed to the model, and then again it will produce the output. Again it will match with the desired output, whether a desired output or not. Then the error will be generated. So every time it's like any person is solving the problem. I've given the problem, he's solving the problem. If there is any error, I'm telling him, right? I'm observing, I'm telling him that there is a problem, you're not solved it correctly. Okay, and then I'm teaching how to solve that one. So this is what this kind of learning is called as the learning in the presence of supervisor. That's why the name is a supervised learning. So in this particular learning, we should have what? We should have initially only, we should have the data, right? So we should have the pair, like the data and its output. right? Data and its output. For this particular data, what will be the output? For this particular data, what will be the output? So this set we should have in advance. Okay, and then whenever a new data, which is, I mean, we will do the training, and after the training, right, once our machine is trained, whenever new data will come, then it will try to classify that particular data in that the group which is already formed over there, right? The classification which we have made. So this kind of supervised learning is used for the classification purposes. But remember, in this, the output, the input and the output is known. Okay, input and output is known, so that that data you should have both input and output, and then only we can train the machine. In the unsupervised learning, what happens? So this is not part of our particular course, but then also I'm explaining so that see, we are gathering the knowledge now, right? So this is a proper time to at least gather the knowledge. Each and every concept will be clear, and then the rest all course is definitely the practical session. So the unsupervised learning. In unsupervised learning, what happens? We give the data, right, to the model, let's say, and then we don't have the supervisor, right? So it will produce certain output. So based on certain features of the data, it will try to extract certain features, like certain behaviors of the data, certain patterns of the data, and it will try to classify. It will try to make the cluster, right? For example, suppose the model is there, and I have the objects like one is wood is there, right? So let's say duster is there, which normally we use for blackboard, right? So made of wood. Then we have the chalk, right? Then we have the pen, okay? We have the book. So let's say if I'll give duster to this particular model, then based on certain patterns, it will try to, if the cluster is already not there, right, it will try to make a new class over here. So let's say the new class is what? A duster. It has given the name as duster. Now tomorrow, if any duster as an input will be given to this particular model, it will put that particular duster in this cluster, okay, in this group. Similarly, the chalk, if we will give, it will try to make out certain features of the chalk, certain patterns of the chalk, and if it is not, it does not belong to this particular cluster, it will make a new group or cluster, right? And it will put chalk over here. So in this particular model, the supervisor is not there. The supervisor is not there. Nobody is there to tell you whether there is an error or not. So what happens here? We have the input, but we don't have the output we don't have, so we require the input. Clear? So we don't require the pair, but here we require the input and output pair. So these unsupervised learnings are used for clustering purposes. For example, in the real life also, you might have seen, for example, suppose you are learning by yourself by just seeing the videos, right? And nobody is there to correct you. That is what unsupervised kind of learning. But if I am teaching you, you are learning in front of me, and if you are making any mistakes, and I am able to correct you, right? So that's what that will be the supervised learning. But in the unsupervised learning, if you are learning from the from the videos, online lectures, right? So that will be unsupervised learning. Okay. The third one is what? Reinforcement learning.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in unsupervised, do we know the output?
So we don't have the output in the unsupervised learning. But in supervised learning, initially we should have that pair. Input and the output set we must have. Okay.
Okay, and this is object oriented, right?
Yes, I mean, see, we have to collect the data, right, in terms of numbers, and then only we can train it. Clear?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so these are the moreover the part of actually neural network, right? So for that you will have to study the neural network from the start, and then you will understand that how we can make the first of all artificial neural network, and then how we can proceed with the deep learning and then artificial intelligence. But anyway, that thing is not required for this particular course. I'm just giving the overview and the description so that you will be aware of all these terms. So in the reinforcement learning, what happens? See, many times we don't have the full data, right? Or partially we have the input set, or partially we have the output set, right? So in that kind of scenario, we can use the reinforcement learning. This is also the one kind of supervised learning only, right? But here what happens, it will not going to correct you. In fact, it will going to give you some kind of critics information or the rewards. Okay, rewards or the, it will try to criticize is like, it will tell you that only 70% is correct. Okay, only 70% is correct, only 30% is correct, right? This kind of this kind of critiques information it will going to provide, and based on that it will also will going to reward certain things. So based on that rewards and critics statement, it will be able to try to learn it. When we can use this particular method, when we have the partial information regarding the input data and the partial information regarding the output data, because this is also some kind of information we are giving, so this is also a kind of supervised learning only. Anyway, so remember what we were going through, we were learning about this different differences and where the ML came into picture. And I told you that ML is also a subset of artificial intelligence, right? Which gives us the statistical tools to explore and analyze the data. Along with that, we have lots of algorithms, right? And different learning techniques like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning, which we have just seen, right? And based on these kind of strategies, we will going to develop these machine learning algorithms, right? So this is also the subset of AI. Now let's go ahead. And now there is a deep learning. If you see, the deep learning circle is even smaller than the ML, which is inside the ML, right? And in turn, which is also inside to the AI. So obviously this is what subset to ML, and in turn it's subset to AI also, right? Where deep learning is used, so normally deep learning is used for multi-neural network architecture, right? Multi-neural network architecture, at very deep layers we will have in that particular neural network, right? Normally the initial days we had the neural network of the 1 or 2 layers, right? Or let's say even the 10 layers because of the processing power. But now we have a lot of processing power and storage capacity, we have the speed, so we could have designed this deep learning model, right? And a few problems were there in the initial days, and because of that the deep learning never become popular, and now from the last 20 years it has become so much popular. So because we are having now that kind of processing power, so when the deep learning is, we can use that is for the multi-neural network architecture. And here also different strategies are there. For example, artificial neural network is there, convolutional neural network is there, and recurrent neural network is there. So when to use which one? For example, artificial neural network you can use for, suppose you are having some numerical kind of data, any numerical kind of data, and you want to design the artificial neural network, that machine, and you want to train that, you can use the artificial neural network. When you can use the CNN stand for convolutional neural network. So if you want to have certain kind of object detection, for example, at many places you might have seen, you might be having the goggle, or let's say some instrument for the let's say a blind person, they have the instrument whenever they go to any shop, right? They will just point to any particular product, and then that particular instrument will be able to tell this is which particular product. This is called as object detection. Even in the automatic driving vehicle we have the object detection. So if any other vehicle is coming in front of that vehicle, or any object is coming, let's say in the robots also, in the machine vision, we have that object detection capability, right? So in those places we can use the convolution neural network. So if we are working with the images and we are working with the videos, there we can then we can deploy this convolution neural network model. Then we have the recurrent neural network model. So if we have the time series kind of data, means where the time is involved, like a stock market data, right? So where the time is involved, this kind of data is there, then you can use the recurrent neural network. So I'm giving this just the overview so that you can remember in your mind, right? Obviously this thing will not come in the data science, but you should have the knowledge. So deep learning means what? A multi-neural network architecture, and in this a different neural network architecture can be deployed, like ANN, CNN, or RNN. Okay. Now there comes the data science. So if you see here, the data science is basically intersecting to all the different parts of this AI entire circle, AI, ML, DL. So it's basically DS applies to all these techniques, ML, DL, and math, and also it has the mathematical tools like statistics, probability, linear algebra, differential calculations, calculus. By using all these different techniques, it will work on the project, and then it will try to explore certain kind of information which are hidden inside the data, and it will be able to predict certain kind of things in the future also. So those all things are possible because it works on the all the techniques. So now at this particular point, one thing is clear, that AI main goal is our what? AI, and basically AI uses all those things, right? So we cannot say AI is standalone stand, right? No, it will going to use ML, DL, DS, all those things, and then the final name of our final name is what? To create one machine which can think just like a human being, which can take the decision just like human being. So whenever you are learning AI simply will not have standalone AI, right? Either you must be learning ML, you must be learning DL, or you must be learning data science. Though they are in the industry, they are kept at as a separate post, right? Data scientist, ML engineer, data deep learning, right? So, but in the AI, all those things comes. Okay. So till here, whether what I have explained, whether if there is any problem, then I can solve, else we can move ahead. So any doubt till here?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I want to. Can you explain about reinforcement learning once again?
Yeah. So reinforcement learning is like where, see, first I explained you about the supervised learning, where we have the, in the start only, before the training, we have the input set and the output set, and then we can do the training. In the supervised learning, we don't have the output, but we have the input set, and then we can start the training, and then it will, based on the certain patterns which are hidden inside the inside the test input data, it will going to make the clusters. In the reinforcement learning, many times we don't have the full information regarding the data, either of the input side or the output side, right? We have the partial info. Whenever you have the partial info, right, you can utilize this reinforcement learning. But in this learning, exactly, we will not going to find out the error, but definitely we can give some kind of critic information, like it is 40% correct, or it is 50% correct, that kind of critic information. And you can also deploy certain kind of reward strategies. If it will do proper, it can give certain kind of reward to this particular learning, right? In this way we can deploy the reinforcement learning. So whether this thing is clear to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's move ahead, and now let's try to understand the three meanings of this data engineer, data analyst, and data scientist. I'm sure many of you might be working as a data analyst, right? And data engineer, many of you might be there. So there is a difference between them. But see, once you are working in a company, right, and if any task is given to you, even though you are data engineer, let's say data analyst, and company will ask you to perform the data scientist job, so you cannot say no, right? You always have to say yes, yeah, we can do it. And even though if you don't know, then you can tell them that give us 2-3 days time, and we can just update ourselves, and then definitely we can perform that task, right? But there is a distinction, right? There is a distinction, and let's try to understand between these particular terms. So I'll take you to the notepad. Okay. So there is a, see, first of all, what happens in the data science, right? What we are trying to see over here is what is different between data scientist, data engineer, and data analyst. Okay, data scientist, data engineer, and data analyst. So what happens in the data science project, right? Initially, we have to gather the information. Now, how you can gather the information? What are the different resources to gather the information? So there are different ways by which we can gather the information. Like, for example, with the help of IoT, we can gather some of the information. IoT is nothing but your Internet of Things, right? Or by the third-party APIs, right? API, sorry, we can access the data. Obviously, they will going to charge depending on which kind of API we are using and how many calls we are making to the APIs. But we can gather certain amount of data. We can also do the surveys, right? We can do the surveys, and then we can access some amount of data. So like this, in this way we can gather the information, right? Once we have gathered the information, now where we will going to maintain it, right? Where we will going to put. So we can use the big data Hadoop, right? We can put our data over there. So the management, or on the cluster also, we can make the cluster and we can put the data over there. So the maintenance of these data, right, data gathering and maintenance of these data in a proper way, that is the job. And where it is done, this is done basically in the data warehouse. This is called as data warehouse, and this is the job of your data engineer. So the data engineer will going to maintain the data, collect the data, and it will store in a proper format. It will look about the data, right, regarding the maintenance of the data. After, once the data is gathered, okay, once the data is gathered, then that data can be used for, this data can be used for exploratory data analysis. Exploratory data analysis. So exploratory data analysis means what? We can explore the data and then we can do the analysis of that particular data, right? And we can find out certain things from the data, and we can do what? We can view with the different visualization techniques, right? Different visualization techniques. We can plot the graphs, right, to view this particular data, and we can prepare a nice report, the nice report of the entire data, and then we can give to the stakeholders which are there, right? So that the stakeholder will come to know that yes, this is the data and what is the analysis of that particular data, and with also proper visualization graphs and all. So stakeholder will come to will also, and after seeing the report, stakeholder will also may give you certain kind of input, right? Now after this, what happens? Once the exploratory data analysis is done, now this is done by whom? So the exploratory data analysis job is done by your data analyst. Okay. So this task is done by your data analyst. Right? Now after this, we have to model, we have to create the model, we have to make the model. So there comes model creation, and after this the model deployment. So more in the model creation, model selection, first of all, I mean, what algorithm we will going to select to for this particular no data. I mean, which particular model will be suitable, which particular algorithm will be suitable, and then after selecting that particular algorithm, you need to train the model. You need to create the model. You need to train it. You need to test it, right? You need to see the accuracy of the model. Also, you will have to perform certain kind of optimization techniques, which will going to improve the accuracy as well as the efficiency of your model, right? Model is nothing but, you can understand, we are making a machine only, right? And to which we will give certain kind of training. So after, once all those things are done, that is the job of your data scientist. Okay, so data scientist is responsible for doing all those things, but his job is not limited up to over here only. He can work up to this particular level, to data exploratory data analysis, to model creation, to model deployment, right? So data scientist can work up to this particular level, but data analyst job is restricted till here, right? A data analyst cannot work as a data scientist. I mean, he don't know how to create the model, how to deploy the model, how to do all this deployment, how to select the a particular algorithm, right, for particular data set, and then how to create the model. So there is a distinction. Data scientists, they can perform up to this particular level. Data scientists can work as a data analyst, right? So this is the distinction. Remember, data engineer who normally take care of your data, how to maintain the data in the data warehouse or on the Hadoop and all, right? And a proper format, how to collect the data from the different sources. That is the job of your data engineer. Then the data analyst is there, which normally performs the job of exploratory data analysis. That is, to analyze the data, to represent the data with the help of different visualization techniques and to prepare the report and make available to the clients who are there, the stakeholders. The data scientist job who works normally from the exploratory level to the model deployment. His main job is what to create the model, to select proper selection of the proper algorithm, to create the model, to train the model, to check the accuracy of the model, to do the optimization, right? And if the accuracy is not proper, then he may revert back to the upper layers, right? And there might be some problem in the data gathering, or some waste data is being collected, or the features which are being not selected for the training purposes, the features might be not proper. So a lot of things can be lot of things may be the issue over there, and which may be able to, they will be able to resolve it. They will again train the model, they will again check the accuracy. If the accuracy is, everything is proper, then definitely they will go into the further production and deployment phase, and they will going to deploy the model. So this is the basic differences between all these things. But anyway, if any data analyst is there in any company and the company wants him to perform the job of all these things, definitely he cannot say no, right? He cannot say no. He will have to perform the job of data scientist also. So if you are learning only, right, so you should learn this entire job of entire process of all these things, so that any task is given to you, you should be able to perform that particular task. Okay, then let's go ahead. Whether this thing is clear to all of you?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
there, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
See,
okay.
many times I might get connected from this particular meeting, right? And since I am focusing here on the presentation, or I might be demonstrating the code, then at that time I will not realize whether I got connected over there, right? So many times in between also I keep on asking. And if you feel that I got disconnected, my number is there, right? I'll also give you in the chat box. You can just call me so that I'll be aware of that. Otherwise, I'll just go on taking the lecture, and I'll realize after 10-15 minutes that if people are not responding, normally the people keep quiet only because we don't want the disturbance in between, right? So we'll not come to know that whether still I'm connected or not. So please take care of that. If anytime I got disconnected, then you can just tell me. Yeah. Okay, let's see certain description about the AI introduction. Now, by this particular time, you must have understood that what is AI and what different things comes under this AI, right? So AI as a standalone, it's not there. One more thing. So I told you that there will be two sessions, like first session 1.5 hour, and then 1 hour break, right? And then the other session will start, let's say after 2:30 to 3:30 break will be there. Then the other session will start by 3:30. Okay, that session will be up to 5 o'clock, so that you will also relax a little bit, and then we can go ahead with the next session. So still 5 minutes are there. Okay, 5-10 minutes I'll cover this one, and then we'll take the break. So during the World War II, when the first computer was made, its main purpose was to break the German communication, right? They wanted to break the German communication because because of, if they would have break the communication, then they can achieve certain things over there. So the main goal of that AI was to break the German communication. So during that time, Alan Turing was there. Okay, Alan Turing, he's also called as the father of artificial intelligence. Okay, and he has developed a lot of algorithms of the AI, and he has presented so many papers. So what he did during in one conference paper, okay, in the 1950, he proposed, and his why I gave this particular picture, because his main role was there in this particular war to break the communication. He used this AI over there in that particular war only. So he's very famous person. What he did in the 1950, he proposed one paper, and in that he quoted that can machine think, this particular statement, can machine think. So he raised this particular question in 1950, and you can see now we are in the 2021, and he proposed this particular paper in 1950, right? So at that time also he had the vision that definitely machine can think the way we behave Even we can design a machine which machine can also behave just like a human being. It can take the decisions the way we take the decisions, right? Why not machine? So even a machine can also think. So in artificial intelligence, what we want to do, we want to build such intelligent machine which can behave like a human being, think like human, and perform the task like human. This is the main goal. Obviously, lots of algorithms are there in the AI also, right? Which we can use it, and which we can deploy, right? But the main goal, the main focus is what? To design an intelligent machine. Okay, we want the intelligent machine, not a normal machine, intelligent machine. That means there will be certain kind of intelligence in that machine, right? Which can perform, which can behave like a human, think like human, and perform tasks like human. So for example, you might have seen the Google Assistant, right? And you can just ask the Google Assistant, and then it will reply you how I how can I help you, right? In our mobile phone, we have this particular Google Assistant. This is one of the AI application. Then Siri is one kind of application which is also similar to your Alexa, right? Alexa is also one of the application, right? This Tesla automatic driving car is there. uh, if you type automatic driving car, you may also see the videos of those the car over there. So it's like there won't be any driver, right? There won't be any driver, and if we want to go to certain place, we will just enter in this particular, we will sit in this particular car, we will put the destination, and then the car by itself will drop us to that particular location, right? If you see here, so many instruments, you can see, like for example, GPS navigation is there. Then from the mirror we can see it's able to detect the object, right? For example, oncoming car, then there is a bicycler, then there is a pedestrian, right? Pedestrian, and signals and all those things, right? It can do with the help of object detection. So it will be acquainted with each and everything, right? And this is how, that's why it's possible automatic driving car without a driver. So this is also one of the great example of this AI. More examples we'll be seeing later, right? So we can say why this AI, ML, and data science is the future, right? We can see on this why this is the future. So this is the future because of the so many things, because a lot of big data is available, very huge amount of data. So just because of that, these techniques has become so much popular. So let's focus on how the data is being generated and how much use it is, right? And in one, right, in one amount of period of time, how much data is being generated. So let's say whenever you buy any product on Amazon or Flipkart or Myntra, then definitely you are generating the data, right? Whatever you are doing, you are generating the data every day. So on stock market, data is generated even in micro, no, every microseconds, every seconds, right? Devices connected on the internet. So many huge amount of devices are connected to internet. How many devices are connected? Let's say the current world population is 7.9 billion. Okay, as of June 2021, according to the most recent United Nations estimates, right? And 50 billion devices will be having by the end of the 2021 year. If you see here, even if we consider this as a 8 over here, right? So if you see over here, it's nearly 6 to 7 times devices. So one person is having 6 to 7 devices, right? One person is having 6 to 7 devices, and all the devices are being connected on the internet. So there you can think how much data we are generating, right? We upload our pictures, we take so many pictures, we post on the Facebook, we post on the Twitters, right? We upload the videos on the YouTube. Huge amount of data we are generating. So devices connected on the internet, if they start exchanging information, then it becomes the IoT, right? So what is the IoT? The IoT is nothing but the devices which are being connected with the help of internet, and if they exchange information, then we say that this is a IoT. It's an information of thing, internet of things, sorry, internet of things. So you can see here so much huge population, and each and every person is being having a cube with the 7 to 8 devices, and which are all connected on the internet. Now let's see what happens in 1 minute, right? What happens in 1 minute. So for example, on YouTube, 300 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. Okay, 300 hours of videos are uploaded to YouTube every minute. Almost 5 billion videos are watched on YouTube every single day. Twitter, every second on an average around 6,000 tweets are tweeted on the Twitter, which corresponds to over 35, I mean 350, 350,000 tweets sent per minute, 500 million tweets per day, and around 200 billion tweets per day. Now you see that everywhere I'm using the numbers and all, right? But remember, for the data scientist, number is very, very important, right? If I ask you what is your height, you should not, at what time you will reach, so you should specify the proper time, right? Or anything, if you are saying, you should specify in a proper number. A number should be given as a data scientist. If you're not able to tell the numbers, and if you say approximately, nearly, all those things, you should not tell. You should tell the proper number, and you should have that information also, right? So WhatsApp user sends close to 42 million messages every minute. Amazon on average, okay, SMB is located in the US, sell more than 4,000 items per minute. So it sells for more than 4,000 items in 1 minute. And that too, I think Amazon 2019, it was the record. Now, I don't know, we can update that one. So Facebook currently has 2.701 billion monthly active users. Furthermore, the number of Facebook daily active users currently stands at 1.785 billion people. 1.785 billion people are the daily active users. Active users means what? Normal monthly active users, and once in a month the users visit to Facebook. So currently stand at 1.785 billion people, meaning 66.09% of the total monthly users log in on a mobile device or a desktop each day. Google handles 3.8 million searches per minute on average across the globe. So you can see in very small time, and so many things are happening. See, nowadays we have lots of gadgets also, right? For example, we have the shoes, we have the wristwatch in such a way that it will record your each and everything, right? We can also count the number of footsteps, right? So that it can give you at the end that how much calories you have burned, and according to that the diet can be given for, from the dietist, right? So many things are there, and so many types of gadgets are there from which every and time, for example, shoes are there in which it will going to count your footsteps, right? And the data will be being generated. Let's say from the mobile phone also, it will keep on capturing the data every second. For example, you might have observed that if you go to, no, if you just simply search in the Google only any particular product, right? And then if you go to the Flipkart or you go to the Amazon, the same product will be shown to you over there. You will surprise at how this product, I have not searched over here, but how this Flipkart or Amazon is showing that same product over here, right? Even on the Facebook it will show you the product. Many times even you will wonder that many times you will not do the search also, right? You will not do anything, but you will just talk to your family member, and 1 or 2 days you'll be talking to your family member about certain thing, and suddenly you will see that in the ad, for example, if you are talking about any particular car or any particular watch, right? And you have not searched anywhere, and then suddenly you will see one day that it's showing, the ad is showing you that particular thing. So you have to think whether your phone constantly recording your voice also, whether it's processing your voice also, right? Based on that, it might be giving you that kind of suggestion, or it might be giving you that kind of ad. It's quite possible. Okay, so I think we can take the break over here, right? And if you have anything, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can take a break, and then after 1 hour, we'll come, and then we can move ahead. Okay, all of you.
Okay.
Okay,
I,
sir.
Sir,
I,
after break, there will be hands-on or theory
yes,
only.
yes. So for let's say another 5 or 10 minutes, I am remaining with this particular theory.